am.
What a bitch move.
No, I'm really happy because I haven't had pizza in a while. And I was like, nice pizza, but it was also like thin crust pizza.
But like that's what we always get at my house.
Really? You guys always get thin crust pizza? I mean, my parents get thin crust pizza, but I love pizza. And I'm in it for the sauce.
You're weird.
I'm not weird.
You're in it for the sauce?
Yes, the sauce is the part that tastes
for
the best.
For the marinara sauce?
Well, it's not always marinara sauce, but yes. The red sauce.
Red sauce is marinara sauce.
Technically, yes and no at the same time.
What else is it?
I don't know, but they taste different.
They just have different ingredients in the marinara sauce.
But exactly. Exactly.
It's still marinara sauce. It just has more oregano sometimes.
Okay, I don't know things.
Get your shit together, Tim.
I'm sorry. I have eaten cheese pizza every day for the past 17 years.
You've eaten frozen cheese pizza every day for the past 17 years.
And?
You cannot be a judger of pizza, then.
I feel like I can be a judger of at least frozen pizzas.
Frozen pizzas.
Shut up. You're just mad at me because I enjoyed the pizza, and you also said you yelled when you found out it was thin crust.
I did yell when I found out because I was that thick bread.
Bread.
I was excited because that's what I've been craving for the past couple of days. I've been craving something really greasy, and then thin pizza just isn't greasy.
It's not. And it's because there's not as much sauce.
I doubt that very much.
I feel like it feels greasier because there's something wet in the middle, and it's just... Okay, so
Randy quits. Randy, because there's something wet.
Pizza? No, I have to commit to the bit. Pizza has a wet thing in the middle. Okay, welcome to Media for the Intellectually Impoverished. That's Randy.
That's Taylor.
And together we make a podcast that
enriches your mediocre lives.
Nice.
I don't like that we did it backwards. You said my name, I said your name.
I kind of like mixing it up every now and then. All right, so today we are talking about a lot of things.
Yeah, we're going to cover it's just going to be information.
Yeah, so it's going to be
pounded into your skull.
So that thing that we said where we're like, we don't like to pound you with information, we have taken that back for this one episode.
And this is it. This is all the information you're getting. You don't get it again.
So no, we've had a couple people say that, you know, when it comes to the media that they are not familiar with, whether it be like, I typically talk about video games, you typically talk about movies. If they're not familiar with what goes into creating that piece of media, or, you know, some of the nuances of the language of that media, or some of the jargon.
Jargon? What does jargon mean?
Jargon means like weird terms for things.
For specific...
Hey Siri, what does jargon mean?
Special words or expressions that are used by a particular profession or group and are difficult for others to understand.
I don't even know if we said what we were doing.
We did. We didn't.
We didn't.
We just said that this was going to be an information-heavy podcast or episode.
So this episode is about us defining all of the things that we talk about on the show that you might not understand from the opposite side of media. Yeah, so we plan to... I have no idea how we're going to do this, but we'll just go in and we'll talk about the things. So
I guess we're just going to go back and forth. It's strange because to both of us, like, our words feel super simple, and so I don't want to, like...
We don't want to act... So we're afraid of acting like you guys are idiots and being like, well, this is this thing, and, like, babying you and being like, well, these are these things, and if you don't know them, why are you here?
Well, no, we'll never say, why are you here?
No, obviously, but it's just that...
But we don't want to pander to you. We don't want to... What's the word?
Patronize?
Patronize... Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, I guess.
We don't want to treat you as if you're idiots or children, which I guess is what patronize kind of means.
Yeah.
But like we want to respect you guys as fellow intellectuals.
Yes.
And but we want you to be able to understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
When we talk about things, because we just talk and we just go, and sometimes we forget that not everyone understands everything that we say.
Yeah.
So I'll start because you started the last episode.
Haha.
And I know that because we just
We
recorded
it. How long is this bit gonna go that we just recorded the last episode?
So I figure I'll start with just sort of the history of gaming and everything. So gaming, well, when it comes to like console gaming, excuse me.
Gross.
Console gaming sort of came about really with started with Pong. It's what people consider the first generation of console gaming.
Okay.
Right, so Pong, it's just a no. Pong is basically table tennis in virtual form, where there's two walls you can move up and down, and there's a ball bouncing between them, and you're basically trying to keep them from scoring a goal past your little wall thing. Very simple. It's one of the first video games to ever come home, and that is considered first gen console. First gen console. It's the first generation. The second generation would be the Atari, which is where you get games like Meteor, or Asteroids. That's what it is. Asteroids. It's when you're a tiny little triangle of a spaceship, and you can move around the map, and you have to shoot the asteroids and not get hit by the asteroids.
That's my favorite game.
It's a good game. It's very primitive. Very.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh God.
That is second generation console stuff. The Atari also holds the worst game known to man, E.T., which people literally buried an entire landfill full of just E.T. for the Atari.
What is E.T. for the Atari?
Based off of the hit movie E.T. Yeah.
What did you play?
No, but I've seen. It's just a bad game. I don't know how else to describe it. There's no story. You just fall into a hole every once in a while, and then you fight for your life, and then you come out.
So it's a survival game. Are you bashing another survival game?
No, it's just stupid. If you saw it, you'd agree. Third generation consoles would be like the Sega Master System or the Nintendo Entertainment System, which is where you get games like Mario and such. I need to mention that right before this, right around this second gen era, is
I thought you meant right before this, right before the what?
No, right before the third generation, which is the Nintendo and the Sega Master, came the arcade cabinet. So that was when arcades and the stereotype of going out to arcades and putting a quarter in the slot machine and then playing a game for a quarter. That was when that was big. And so the Sega Master and the Nintendo Entertainment System brought those games those games into the household.
So wait, arcade games didn't exist before like Pong?
No. Pong was one of the first video games.
Okay,
it was basically, so what would happen is you could take these games home, right? But most of them were arcade cabinets. But this is when the surge of arcade cabinets happened, when it became popularized.
Oh, okay.
So there were arcade cabinets for a
Okay.
while, but this is right before the Nintendo came out, was when arcade cabinets were big.
And when you say arcade cabinets, you mean like the box
So yeah,
games,
an arcade
like...
cabinet is literally just like if you've ever been to a movie theater and you see one of those areas where it's got like a bunch of games and stuff, and it's got a joystick and it's got the buttons.
Yeah, where
and
you can play like Pac-Man or
Yeah.
Galaga,
Yeah. Games like that, those are considered arcade cabinets because they are literally like you can open them up like a cabinet to put the game in, and then you can any cabinet can hold any game. You just need to put the right game in.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Um,
So we can just go to, like, if you had the key, you could go to an arcade and just switch all
it's
the...
more complicated than that because the processing systems were pretty big.
Oh, okay.
But like, yes.
I was gonna say that'd be funny if you went to like a Pac-Man machine, but then you could play like Galaga's the only other one that I know. You just switch those two.
Yeah, and then the original Super Mario Bros. Came out on arcade cabinet, but then
It did? Wait a minute.
yeah, put a quarter in, play as Mario.
On an arcade cabinet.
Yeah, I believe so.
Before like an in-home station.
The game was originally released in the dedicated wide-body cabinet.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's when I say, like, the Nintendo Entertainment System brought arcades to your house.
Mm-hmm.
So you purchase the game, and then you would only have to purchase it once, and that was revolutionary. Because usually you'd be like a quarter a game, and they just suck your money. Because you die, and then you'd have to put another quarter in to play again. But these took them to your house, so you could just play them over and over again until you beat them.
Mm-hmm.
So that is...
Wow, that is the revolution, God.
Yeah, that's really when gaming took off, like console gaming became console gaming.
Mm-hmm.
That was the third generation of games. Fourth generation is the Sega Genesis and the Super NES, which is, more than that. Fifth is the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64, which is the first time you saw 3D games. Sixth generation, PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox. Seventh, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the Wii. Eighth, Wii U, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch. And then the ninth is currently coming out is the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. And it's continuing. So yeah, those are the sort of generations of consoles, and that's really like the not an in-depth history of gaming, but like this is how gaming this is how gaming sort of came about in a general idea. So the important things to note here is the dates of like the Atari is 1977.
Really?
1977 is when the Atari came out. 1983 is when the NES came out, the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES.
We've advanced a lot.
Yeah, it's when you think about it, it's been less than a century that video games have really been commercialized.
It's been less than 50 years. I mean, or it's been about 50 years.
Yeah, it's been about half a century since the first video game was ever.
That's insane when you compare it to like the movie industry that's been around since. Well, I mean, motion pictures has been around since like the 1800s, the late 1800s. But movies weren't like then. You had theaters in the early 1900s. We've had them for over a century now, and to think that video games they're so young.
They're really young.
My God.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like I said, the Atari wasn't the first video game. It came out in 77, but the first video game the system came out in 72, which was the Magnavox Odyssey, which I don't know a whole bunch about.
Okay, well then you'd have to compare it. Well, then by then you had TVs in your house. You had to have TVs, but still, but like movies, I'm trying to figure out like the timeline. So no, like movies are obviously older, and television is older than video games because you had to have TVs in your home
before video games.
Yeah.
Putting a timeline on it.
Yeah.
Other important dates to know: the PlayStation 1 came out in 1994. PlayStation 2 was released in 2000. Xbox. The first one was 2001, and then now I'm going to get into PC gaming. So PC gaming has grown more popular over the past decade than it has been forever because it really, when PC gaming started, you had to buy a disc like you would for any other game. You'd buy a disc, you'd plug the disc in, it would install on your computer, and while you had the disc in, you could play it on your computer. Very similar to what we see in, today, even today.
Those are the kind of games that I played.
And so... But that was changed once, because what happened is you'd release the game, and then the game would need an update. And then how do you get an update? Well, you got to go to the website. You got to download the update installation. You got to install the update into the game. And it was really complicated. Well, then this team called Valve opened up something that, is widely known today called Steam, which was a service which allowed you to download games and update them when they needed updating. It would update automatically. You wouldn't have to worry about finding the newest update and downloading it. Right?
When did Steam come out?
Steam came out in 2003. 2003 is when it started, which is crazy when you think about it, because in 2003, that was just 2 years after the PlayStation 2 released. But Steam had already come out. But people didn't really pick up Steam because initially it was just for Valve's games. Steam would be releasing games made specifically by Valve and would update them through their user site, right? Well, eventually, in about, 2012, they released called the Steam Greenlight, which allowed people to send in games, original indie games, and have them produced and sold on Steam. Shut up. Shut up.
Ow. I don't know why I just got a random cramp in my finger.
It's what happens. It was my black magic.
It was your...
What was I saying? Yes. It was... Shut up. Whenever you get me off track, I have to take a moment to recalibrate.
No, I'm sorry. You said that you didn't want it to just be, like, informational, and I'm trying to come up with jokes here, and I couldn't think of anything, and then I just realized that my ass fell asleep, and I wanted to say it, and I was like, that's not funny, and now here we are. So, continue.
Okay, great.
Steam in 2012.
Steam in 2012 it was called the Steam Greenlight. Basically, you would send in a game. Well, they realized that a bunch of people, and then the users you'd send in a game, and then the users would vote on whether or not it was good, and they would send in their thing. So then they realized that a lot of people or were just dicks about it, and like send in false information.
Yeah.
So then they sort of added a price, so you have to pay to submit your game. Well, then a lot of indie developers were like, hey, we're in deficit from creating our games. We don't have the money to cough up to put it on. Well, then they rethought it, and they eventually sort of phased out Greenlight and then brought in Steam Direct. Well, Steam Direct has a cost of $100 upfront, but if you raise over $1,000, you are reimbursed for those $100.
Oh, okay.
So that's how Steam Direct works, and that's how they keep games coming in. And so the user feedback is still given, but not to Steam directly, to the developers. And the developers have to weed out the problematic false information and all that stuff.
Okay.
And with that comes, like, Steam wants games to be discoverable, so they updated their HUD. Oh, that's another good word to define. A HUD is a heads-up display. A heads-up display.
Very good word.
Yes. A heads-up display is what you as the player of the game see on the screen that does not exist in the world, and it gives you information about the game. So say like a health bar, how you can see how much health you have left. That is part of a HUD.
Oh, okay.
Maybe an inventory where you can see what weapon you're holding. That is part of a HUD. Your player name at a certain part. That's a HUD. Anything that is on the very forefront of the screen that covers everything else and gives you information is a HUD, a heads-up display. So yeah, they updated their HUD. They updated their main page, and so that games were more discoverable, so you could find indie games and give that feedback, and then continue to grow these games, and then la-di-da-di-da, and then eventually, where we at today, where people will build their own PCs designed specifically for gaming. Anyway,
You lost Randy. Randy's not home anymore.
Randy's on a different plane.
It's that part of like the night where like
You're not tired enough to go to bed, but you're tired enough to not
be like loopy and like giggly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What the fuck? But
Taylor's gone. Taylor's on a different plane.
But you said la-di da-di, and then I started singing that TikTok song. Isn't it like la-di da-di? I don't know. Never mind.
Cool.
You of all people, I'm gonna find it now. I'm going to find it.
I can find it. We can't play it, right? It's copyrighted.
Well, then you're gonna cut it out.
Okay, fine. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the Game of the Year. I've mentioned it a few times. So there are different award systems in all kind of types of media to, congratulate those who have achieved above and beyond in their field of media. So the Game of the Year awards, they're basically the Oscars for video games.
Mm-hmm.
Where like a bunch of people, I'm not exactly sure how it totally works, but I'm not sure if it's like user voted or if it is voted on by, I'm going to find that out. So yes, it is voted on by a committee or someone in a committee or like a jury or something. They get people together and then they vote. And so the Game Awards is the Oscars of the video game world. You can get a multitude of awards ranging from like best screenplay. There's a best screenplay in video games. There's best music, best sound design. A bunch of the awards that you see, as well as best indie game, and best in categories, and all kinds of stuff. And then the Game of the Year is obviously the Game of the Year. It's the one that they deemed the best game of the year, and it fits all the categories and it blows everyone away. So that's what I was talking about with that.
Do you know what the best game of the year was for 2020?
The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay, nice.
Yes. A lot of people were upset about that. I was not.
I wasn't either. I mean, I'm not upset. I wanted to ask because I remember when the pandemic first hit, everybody was really worried about like how the Oscars and Academy Awards and like I'm sure best game of the year was going to be when you couldn't like put out content.
So, terms to define, things that I have said in the past, things I might say in the future. I'm going to start with words. So, quick time events is a good one. So, a quick time event in a game is when you are prompted to press a button within a certain time frame. It is similar to kind of like a rhythm type thing. So, basically, a circle or some indicator will say when to press the button. Whether or not you press it on time will say you either pressed it at the wrong time, you pressed it way too early, you pressed it pretty good. You were close to the beginning. You pressed it perfect. It was great, or you missed it entirely.
Yeah.
And then those typically, depending on how well you do, will change the outcome of what happens in the scene. Because you as a player are not directly controlling the character in that moment. You are simply pressing a button, and the character will do something based off of what button you press. And it's a quick time event because it's quick, and it's a time event.
Also called QTE, right?
I mean, yeah, but most people just call it a quick time
event. I've heard people say QTE.
I haven't heard anyone say QTE, but maybe they do. Graphics. I mean, I feel like this one's kind of self-explanatory, but I thought I'd delve into it a little bit because I do talk about graphics a lot. So graphics, when I talk about that in a game, that means how the game looks. It can be anything from the style of how it looks, or down to from. It can be anything from the style versus what the game's textures look like how the developers choose to portray the environment.
Okay.
Typically when I say graphics, I'm talking about like what you see, right?
Yeah.
So say you as the player, there's multiple types of graphics. So there are 2D graphics, which is everything that you're seeing is on a 2D format. You're playing a 2D game. There's 3D graphics, which is everything's in a 3D format. But when you talk about graphics in a 3D game, what people typically mean is how polished the game looks and how photoreal it looks.
Okay.
So a game that has really amazing graphics like Ghost of Tsushima, or really interesting graphics like Ghost of Tsushima, their textures, which is what game developers will put on top of objects to make it look real, are really well developed. There are games with really bad graphics. Sometimes it's purposeful. Sometimes you don't want good graphics in your game. You want a certain aesthetic, like a VHS aesthetic or a classic PlayStation aesthetic. Because graphics over the years have evolved. You hear people talk a lot about graphics cards. A graphics card is what's going to process all of the information that the game is sending to your computer and your screen for graphics. So as graphics cards enhance and get better, so will graphics in turn. Here's one specifically for sort of online gaming,
Okay.
which is when you're playing with other people online. There's latency and there's ping. Both of those mean generally the same thing, but they're different ways of measuring it. So what they both sort of mean is how well your console or computer is connecting to this server, which is holding the game. Server being, like the big place in the sky where the game is being held, So latency is measured from 0 up, and you typically want a really low one. Around 40 is a good number. Ping, typically you want you want a lower number, but ping is typically measured in higher increments, around 100 is where you want your ping to be. Class systems. So if I say a game has class systems, that means that there are multiple archetypes for you to choose from that are already sort of pre-built for you. So class system is like, say you can either be an assassin, or you can be a cowboy, or you can be a knight. 3 very different things, right? Each of those have their own types of skills that they'll need to effectively play that character. So each of those is a class. You can pick at the beginning of the game which class you want to go into and play the game as. And so those typically will, like, a lot as you level up in the game, you gain more and better skills. And if you want to play as a different character or play with a different class system, you have to restart the game and play with the different class system. There are some games that are exceptions to that, where they'll have class systems to begin with, and then later on in the game you can switch class systems, or you can gain skills from other class systems and put them in your own skill set. Skills in a game, kind of self-explanatory. A skill in a game is an ability that your character will have or will earn that you can use in the world of the game. Yeah, that's a good definition, right? Yeah, nice. Another thing, emulator. An emulator is a virtual console that allows you to play games that you otherwise would not be able to get a hold of on computer. So say you want to play a PlayStation 1 game that Steam is not selling. Download an emulator, find a copy of that ROM, a ROM being the format of file that holds a video game, and plug in that emulator to your PC, and you can play older consoles on your PC. It emulates that console. It pretends to be that console for a little while so that the game file will play. Those are really useful for streamers who are trying to play certain games online, but that, you don't have a card to plug those into, or you don't have that console that works anymore. Typically, it's taboo to purchase, to play a game on an emulator that you have not purchased. So say I own a physical copy of this game, people would not be upset with me if I downloaded a ROM of that play on an emulator. But if you don't own it, it's like pirating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then now into a couple more things. One more thing is iframes, which are invincibility frames. Frames during a game in which your character is invincible and you can do certain things without
Recupping?
repercussions.
What did we? I said a word. Oh,
Repercussions.
Josh, what?
You can do things without repercussions, is what I was
Oh
going to
yeah,
say.
but you were saying recupping.
Recupping.
Josh said something earlier.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, he couldn't say optical illusions. He said obstacle illusions.
Good old obstacle illusions.
Obstacle illusions, and then we kept playing with it, and then it eventually became obelisk illusions.
Obelisk illusions.
Jokes aren't flowing, Taylor. I need your help. I can't carry this show on my back.
Excuse me, I'm here telling them information.
Okay, but like while you're telling them information, I have to be the funny one, and I'm not the funny one.
That's true. You're not very funny.
Wow. What a bitch.
On to genres.
I'm gonna cry again.
No, let me finish my thought. So iframes are frames in which you, as the character, are invincible and can do things that would typically cause you damage without repercussions. So those are prevalent in a lot of different styles of video games. Let me get on to genres. There's a lot, and I'll explain as I go on. So an RPG is a role-playing game, a game in which you play as someone you could not, or you create a character that you could not be. There's very many different types. There's fantasy role-playing games like Skyrim. There's the cowboy role-playing game, Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a game in which you're playing a character, like I said, that you cannot be. There's a JRPG, which stands for Japanese RPG, which typically have a different style than American RPGs. There are turn-based games. So a lot of old JRPGs were turn-based, which means that during the combat, when you would be fighting an enemy, nowadays you just see it in real time. You'll fight the enemy in real time. But back in those days, you didn't have the capabilities to do that. So they would play turn-based RPGs, which were you have a turn to have all your characters do an attack, and then the enemies have a turn to attack you. And you go back and forth, and you take...
Back and forth!
Shut up! I'm having tongue...
Back and forth! Back and forth!
Shut up!
We're Texans.
Texans.
Back and forth.
Back and forth. You go back and forth, and you take turns attacking each other until one of you eventually dies. FPS, a first-person shooter. You're playing a game in the first person, meaning that you do not see a character, you are the character, and you can shoot a gun.
I can't play those
or
games.
anything.
I don't have the eye coordination.
Yeah, like Call of Duty is a first-person shooter. A Metroidvania, I've talked about it multiple times on the show. It is defined by the classic games Metroid and Castlevania, which had you as a character backtracking your map, unlocking abilities to unlock new places you can go, and fighting enemies that are typically overwhelming or difficult. They're classified as more difficult than the typical game. Multiplayer games that multiple people can play. Massive multiplayer games, games that a whole bunch of people can play, typically classified as an MMO or an MMORPG. An MMORPG like World of Warcraft is an MMORPG. Thousands upon millions of people can play all at once, and they're playing together at the same time. There's fantasy games. There's survival games, which typically are based around you keeping a character alive. Typically, survival games don't go by themselves, but there are cases of that. Typically, you see survival horror games. That's a really popular genre. There's dating sims. A dating sim is when you can go around and pretend date animated women.
Have you ever played Honey Pop?
No.
I don't want you to,
I know what it is.
Oh, you know what it is.
Oh, I
Okay.
know what it is.
Of course you know what it is.
Oh, yeah.
But you've never played it?
No, it's a dating sim kind of game that is... It's more risque.
It's not really a dating sim.
I mean, it kind of is. It's classified as a dating sim. But it's also one of those games where it's like... Have you ever played like Bejeweled, where you have to like switch things to get 3 of the same item in a row, and then those pieces...
Or
it's
like Candy Crush?
Yeah, like Candy Crush. That's a good one.
Okay, but do you want to explain to them when do you do that?
When you're trying to see them naked.
Yep.
The more you make disappear, the more naked you see.
The more... the more of the items that you disappear, that you match in a row, the more...
The more of the naked woman you get to see.
Yep. Have you ever played Honey Pop?
No, I have said once. You want me to reiterate?
No, it's just... You know there's Honey Pop too.
Have you ever played Honey Pop? Do you want to? I feel like you kind of want to play Honey Pop. Is there any particular reason you're bringing this up?
No, I was asking... Taylor, you were the one who wanted this to be funny, and I'm trying to make it funny.
I know, and I'm doing the bit where I'm trying to make fun of you for trying to be funny.
I didn't get that. That did not get to my brain.
No. There's a walking simulator, which is a game. It sounds really boring. It sounds really boring. There's more to it than just walking.
You mean Colette?
Yes. God, Colette is a walking sim that sucks. Typically, there's no combat, there's no action in this game. It is a story-driven game where you as the character are walking, exploring this world, and finding out about the story as you continue to walk. Good examples being What Remains of Edith Finch and Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Those are 2 good games. Combat or fighting games that are based around you playing other players and fighting them. So there's a lot of different... It's difficult to describe. They involve a lot of technical prowess with the controller, and they're very nuanced in their styles, and there's a myriad of different kinds of combat and fighting games. Most popular being Smash Bros. Ultimate. There's Street Fighter. Those are combat and fighting games. There's For Honor is more of a combat game. The difference between combat and fighting is combat is typically with, like weapons of some sort. Fighting game is typically with fists. So a combat game would be like For Honor, which is a battle simulator, or Soul Calibur, which is a sword battle simulator. There's platformers. So this is a good one. Platformers are types of games based around you surviving in a world full of like platforms. So you're jumping from this platform to platform and avoiding enemies and trying not to get hit by anything dangerous and finishing the level. Like Mario. Mario is a platformer. Shovel Knight is a platformer. They're typically 2D, but there are instances of 3D platformers. Like, I know there's an Earthworm Jim game that's in 3D, but it's not great. Those games aren't super great all the time. Spyro, that's a 3D platformer.
Ooh! I love Spyro.
Real-time battle simulators. These are crazy games for people that love war. So you basically create troops and you create armies, and then you set them at war with other armies. And it's real-time, meaning that it's all happening real time, and you can watch it unfold while you also command the battlefield, and it is simulating actual physical battles. I don't really have... There are battle royales, which are super popular right now for some stupid reason. Basically, 100 real people will join a game, and then they will fight each other, and then whoever is the last one left alive, or the last group left alive, is the winner. There's hack and slash, and there's dungeon crawlers. Very similar, but very nuanced and a little bit different. So a hack and slash game is a game where you, as a character, are like extremely overpowered. Super overpowered, meaning that your character is way too powerful for this situation. And you have the ability to hack and slash away at your enemies. It's typically about comboing your enemy, flowing, free flow combat that just feels satisfying and allows you to beat up a bunch of enemies all at once that are just dropping out of nowhere and makes you feel like a god. A dungeon crawler is a game where you are delving deeper and deeper into these dungeons and gaining abilities as you go, gaining weapons as you go, and then when you die, you start over with your new weapons or your new abilities, and you just try to continue and progress further and further down the dungeon until you get to the very big bad boss at the bottom. A lot of dungeon crawlers are also hack and slash games, but hack and slash games are typically not dungeon crawlers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then the final one that I have is VR, virtual reality. These are games created with the sole purpose of you putting on a headset that allows you to see into the world of the game and be in the world of the game and interact with the world of the game on a really intricate level. You'll have these handheld controllers, and you'll have a visor, I would say, that you put on over your head that has a screen in it, and you can go around and interact in the game world itself. And these are typically extremely interactive games, and it is a growing genre of games that is constantly being updated and being increased in ability and such. So yeah, those are all of the ones that I think are important to mention. There are so many types of games and so many genres of games, and the thing with genres of games is that you can mix them and match them however you want. Like I said, there are hack and slash dungeon crawlers, there are multiplayer RPGs, there are combat RPGs, there are rhythm-based games like Guitar Hero that are also fighting games. You can mix and match any of these combinations and come out with a game. Not saying that the game will be good, but there are huge varieties of games that just mix and just create these concoctions that are very strange and unique and beautiful in their own right. That is everything that I have.
That might have been a bit too much.
It might have been a bit too much.
That might have been. Okay, well, that was a lot, and I didn't know any of those things, and so now I'm wiser, but I can't, mine are so easy.
I don't know, tell me the things. Maybe I won't know some of them.
Oh, you're gonna know all of them.
It does help that I have taken a lot of film classes with you.
Yeah. Random fact about Randy. You know what I want to do? I want to have Randy's random thought of the day. And I want to have a little sting for it. Just Randy's random thought of the day.
Randy's random thought of the day. Wow. Interesting.
Why do people walk on two legs?
Why do they?
Honestly, I was walking to class the other day, and I was just seeing everybody walk, and I was thinking, who came up with the idea that we would walk on two legs? Our center of mass would be in the middle of us, or lower. It's not in the right center of us, lower. And then we'd walk on these little tiny feet.
Probably a monkey was like, "Yoo-hoo, monkey no like walk on hands. Hands tired. Monkey walk only on feet.
Feet tired.
Feet tired.
Feet now
Monkey not
tired.
know what to do.
Monkey must learn to fly."
Monkey must learn to fly.
That's our new character is now Monkey.
Hee-hoo.
He who. What is it? The line from Tarzan. Hoo he ha hoo. That means Jane will stay.
Yeah. Hoo.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So the movies.
Randy's random thought of the day. Wow, that was interesting.
See, wouldn't that be incredible? I think we need that, and I think we need a sting for our recommendations at the end. But anyways, that's enough topic because I don't want to just spew
it.
Info.
That's
what you just did, and I was so tired.
It's cool. I'll pay attention. If not, then I'll pretend I'm paying attention.
You're already on your fidget spinner.
No, I'm not. I'm putting it away because it's gonna make noise.
No, because if you should play it, you should be on it because then you'll actually pay attention.
Yeah, but I don't want to. Oh, fine.
Okay.
There you go.
You're gonna have to just turn off your mic. Okay, so the studio system, because you got to talk about where video games came from. I've already talked about in past episodes where the movie industry started. I mean, oh man, what's the name of the guys? I don't know, but there's this big a myth, I guess, or the mythos of where movies came from, or the idea of putting pictures back to back to create a motion picture came from two people who were trying to figure out if when a horse runs, if all of their feet ever came off of the ground. And so what they did was, one of them, I can't remember their names, I'll look it up, but one of them set up like 16 cameras along down the side of a racetrack, and then the cameras went off one after the other, and it followed the horse as it ran, and then you could see whether the horse had all of its feet up at once. And then if you play them back to back, it looks like the horse is running, and then that's where the idea came from, of like taking multiple pictures and then making a motion picture. Anyways, that was back in like the late 1800s. I don't know the exact year again. And then like the early 1900s was when like you started creating like the studio systems and things like that. So studio system, or a studio, is a big corporation that puts out movies. They will hire multiple directors and producers that will go and create the movies, and they'll hire everybody who's on the cast and crew. So it's very industrialized or commercialized. Their whole point is to make money, and I think this is what we talked about in like the first episode that we made, because I talked about the different studios. There's big ones out there like Universal, Fox, Disney. It's not really it's a studio. It's just a monopoly. Disney's a monopoly.
Disney just owns the world and has yet to tell us that.
Disney bought Fox, like, and Sony. Don't they have Sony now?
No, they just bought Fox, and they're getting Spider-Man.
And they're getting Spider-Man, but they also had to. I thought Sony had Spider-Man.
Sony does have Spider-Man, but they're getting Spider-Man rights.
Okay, yeah. So they bought those from Sony, though. They didn't buy those from Fox.
No, Fox owns the X-Men.
Right. Oh, that's why they bought them, because they're getting X-Men. So excited about that. But those, yeah, Universal, Paramount. I can't think of any of the other ones. They're all gone.
What's the one with the lady? With the
Columbia. Yeah, and so you have your studio systems, or you have like independent filmmaking, which would be you doing it yourself, not going through a studio, which can be a bit daunting because studio also gives like not liability, but like they give you insurance, and so like if something goes wrong, like they are ultimately like accountable for it, and like it's easier to like go through like the payment process and everything. Independent, you're doing everything on your own. You are getting your own producer, you are either your own director, you are getting your own cast and crew to help you make your film. You're not having a big corporation behind you peddling your project. It's all up to you, basically. And so a director is the person who is moving the film forward artistically. They're the artistic direction of the film, while a producer is more of like the money side and the logistics of it, making sure that the idea is actually going to make money and it will be profitable. And then producers usually have like they do the scheduling, they do the spreadsheets, they make sure there's like food and all of these, well, not food, but like they make sure everything like logistically that you need to make a film is ready, so that the director doesn't have to worry about that. All the director has to do is worry about the artistic sides of the film.
Yes, so the director is the artistic side of a film. The producer is the technical, sort of like the nitty-gritty, sort of what I think us creatives would call the nasty stuff.
Yeah. They deal with all that kind of stuff. And then if you ever see like on movies at the very beginning where you see executive producers, so executive producers are people who just gave money to the film. So they didn't actually have really like a say in what happened with the film. I mean, you can be an executive producer and a producer so that you did have a say in what happened with the film and things, but usually an executive producer is just someone who saw the idea and was like, yeah, I'll give money to that and then put my name on it, and yeah, so you help fund the film. So that's a producer and director. And then to fill out your cast and crew. So your cast is everybody who's going to be in front of your camera. It's going to be all of your actors. And then there's a bunch of different words that you can use to describe your actors. You have minor and major actors, minor and major characters. So minor characters are people who have little to almost no screen time, and major characters are characters that have a lot of screen time. And so screen time is how long you are on the screen, how long you are actually in front of the camera being filmed. And then you have like supporting actors. Supporting actors help the main actors. They're usually like a companion or somebody who helps move the story along with the main character. The main character is who the story of the film revolves around. And then you have extras. And so extras are people who don't have speaking roles, but they make up the city or the location in which the film is taking place.
What do you call the actors on set? I know there's a specific word for that, but I don't remember what it is.
Called the actors on set.
Yeah, it's because, it's like there's the crew, but then they have like a specific word for actors, right?
I think they do. You're
Is it something like, is it the talent? It's the talent.
It's the talent. You call them the talent. Yes.
Yes. So actors known on set as talent because you are the talent that is creating
Yeah.
the story. So.
Yeah. And then you have the crew. So crew is everybody who's going to be working behind the cameras, behind the scenes, is what you don't see throughout the film. So again, you have like your director, your producer. You also have your cameramen who run the camera. You have your cinematographer who is working with the cameraman, making sure that the scenes are cinematic. And what I mean by like cinematic, they look pleasing to the eye. So they know like composition, photography, rules about lighting and everything that to make the picture look aesthetically pleasing to the eye. And so they'll also have like a bit of control over the people who light the set and the people who make the set, and not make the set, but there's also like set designers and things like that. Those are the people who make the set. All of these people are working behind the camera. And you also, just to get really technical, because you could get into all the names of all the different people, but I don't think you'll need to know those. I don't think I'll ever really mention those names. The only other thing would be like PAs. So PAs are like the lowest of the totem pole. Those are production assistants, and usually when you're going in to the film industry and you want to start working, you will start as a PA, and they do all of the dirty work that nobody else wants to do. They're the ones going to get everybody coffee. They're the ones printing scripts. They are the ones doing all those kinds of things that nobody else really wants to do.
They get the bitch work.
Yeah, they get the bitch work. So there's all your cast and crew and things like that. Oh my goodness gracious. Went through all that. Oh, so to make a movie, you need a screenplay. So a screenplay is what the writers write, what the screenwriters write. It's the story of the film. It's the script, what the actors are going to be saying when on set.
Mm-hmm. Screenplay also includes like actions. It's basically the story in a format that they can then translate to film.
Exactly.
So it depicts like what scenery could look like, what people are wearing sometimes. Every screenwriter does different types of like nuance in their script depending on what the director wants.
Yeah.
So some directors are very nitpicky. They want everything in their script. Every little thing, every little detail needs to be in that script. Other directors are very lax and don't care what's in the script or not, and just want like the lines for the actors and maybe some camera and stage directions. Stage directions being where people should go and when they need to go there, so that everything looks right.
Yeah, so you can enter like stage left, stage right. You can also enter the frame. So the frame being what the camera sees. That's the little square on the camera, how far the lens can look out. So you can enter from the left side of the frame, you can enter from the right side of the frame. And those have different meanings in film. So typically people who enter from the left side of the frame are the good guys, and people who enter from the right side of the frame are bad guys. Because
that is really interesting.
Well, yeah, because especially in Western culture, I have to preface, because we read from left to right. So when we see a character enter from the left, we immediately start thinking, oh, something's right about this character. I understand this character. When you see somebody enter from the right, you're already put off a little bit because you're not used to watching something move from right to left.
Wow, that's like psychology.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And a lot of that goes into filmmaking, and there's a lot of different things that you can do like that just to slowly put your audience off kilter and just make them like, have you ever watched a movie and you thought like, I just don't trust this guy? And it's because they've done little things like that. They've had them enter from the right side of the frame, or they've put them in maybe darker clothing, or they've I can't think of some of the other, or they've given him like really, like the camera angles that they use, either they're like too close up or they're too wide, and so you feel either too close to them or you feel really distant from them. All of those little things play into how you see and perceive a character. Quickly, no, I'll do genres last because you did genres last. I do have genres on here. But while we're talking about shots, I do want to go over the different types of shots, because we did talk about this a bit in our cinematography episode. I'll just quickly brush over them again. I have a little picture to help me.
I have a little picture to help me. Wow.
Okay. Anyways, so shots. So.
Well, hey, whoa.
Shots. Shots. Oh my god, I need help.
I need a doctor.
I'm gonna put up this picture as well, so don't, because I'm gonna give you a lot of information really fast. So if you don't get it, when we put up this episode, I'm the one who runs the social media, if people don't know that.
Yes, except for Twitter, because I have taken over Twitter.
So, did you see what I responded to your tweet?
Oh, no, I didn't. Did you respond to one of
Yeah.
them? Oh, my God.
Follow us on Twitter at MFTII Podcasts.
Yes, at MFTII Podcast. That's 2 I's at the end, MFTII Podcast. My goodness, I haven't checked it in a little while.
You should tweet right now. Be
I
like,
should tweet. Hey, I'm talking about this right now. You guys are not going to believe it. What did you say? I don't see it in my...
you don't?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. So I tweeted on the thing, haters out here really saying Randy doesn't exist. First off, who told you? Second off, please stop saying that. She'll cry. And then you responded. The only response is, this is true. Please don't.
Who said I don't exist, or did you just make that up?
Oh, I made it up.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of things that I make up that are just really funny off the top of my head.
No, that was really funny. And then I was telling my boyfriend about it. He's like, who thinks you don't exist? Anyways, camera shots, not gunshots. Camera shots. So you have extreme close-ups, which will show typically the face, and it's from like the top of the forehead to the chin. It's very, very close up. You can also have extreme close-ups of like hands or objects that you want to emphasize. You then have just a regular close-up, which will show the entire face from the top of your head to like about your neck. You can also, all of these are with like people, but you can do these kinds of shots with anything. It's just to give you a frame of reference of how much input is within the frame, or how close the subject is within the frame. But I'm going to use people analogies throughout all of this. So then you have a medium shot, which goes from about the waist up, and you can see everything from the waist up of people. You then have a medium long shot, which goes a little bit further back, and so now you can see about to the people's like hips or so, maybe about their thighs. You can see all the way up, and then you have a long shot. You can see the entire person. You have a very long shot. You can see not only the entire person from head to toe, you can also see the landscape that is surrounding the person. You then can have different angles within shots. You can have like a Dutch angle, which is when the camera isn't horizontally aligned with the set, when it's kind of off kilter, tilted to one direction. And yeah, one direction.
I was trying to think of a song that they sang, and all I could think of is Guess Who's Back, but I'm pretty sure that's the Backstreet Boys.
I'm disappointed.
Oh man, yeah, you should be. I really don't know my boy bands from the 90s and early 2000s. Oh God. Oh, please don't come after me.
You've never seen an Adam Sandler movie.
You've never seen an Adam Sandler movie.
You've never seen The Office?
You've never seen The Office.
Okay, so you have a Dutch angle, and then there's also, you can have a low angle camera shot, which is the camera is below the subject looking up at the subject. It makes the subject appear bigger, more dominant, more dangerous or intimidating. You can also have a high angle shot, which is the camera is above the subject looking down on them, which would make them seem smaller. What's the opposite of intimidating? Shy.
Unintimidating.
Passive.
You.
Me. Yeah, so there are your different kind of camera shots. You can also have like extreme long shots, I think is what it's called. I can't remember the last one, where like you just get like an entire landscape in the frame. I think that's an extreme wide shot.
Well, extreme wide shot, and there's also extreme close-ups, which I don't know if you mentioned because I wasn't listening.
That was the very first
cool.
thing that I mentioned.
Great, nice. I was
Taylor's
tweeting.
not listening.
No, you told me to tweet, so I sent some tweets
I
out.
want to see what you tweeted.
I twote. I'm a twoter.
Ew, that was the worst picture.
It's a picture of you in motion. Yeah.
I look like I want to die.
Well, to be fair, I think you do. Tweeting during the recording session. Great. Good recording etiquette, Taylor.
Say hi and I won't respond.
Hashtag pod. I tweeted out, hey guys, this is me tweeting from the studio. Say hi and I won't respond. Hashtag podcasting.
God, I look like I want to.
Well, it's too late. It's on the
I
internet.
know I should have worn makeup today. Oops.
Honest, I should have worn makeup today. I found out that I have eyeliner at my house. I had a whole bunch of makeup because I was a stage actor for a little while in high school. And eyeliner makes my eyes gorgeous. Gorgeous. They
Eyeliner
pop.
makes everybody look gorgeous. Let's be honest.
Let's be real here.
Why doesn't everybody just wear eyeliner all the time?
Because some people like to have eyes that are natural, Faza. All right, what were we talking about?
Okay, should I talk about editing? I don't know. I just
A little bit. Let's talk about
three,
let's talk
four,
about a couple.
5, 6. I have 6 words.
Go for it.
Okay, so there's cross-cutting, which is when you are telling 2 stories simultaneously and you are cutting between one story, like the primary story and the secondary story, back and forth, and eventually by the end of the movie or television show or whatever, those 2 stories will come together and the characters will meet. You have Cutaway, which is something that we were kind of talking about a little about, like you were saying earlier about like an insert. It's where you cut in the middle of a continuous shot with a object or with a subject that gives more context to the other scene that we were talking about. I can't think of an example, so it'd be like if you were talking about like, oh, that one coffee mug that I dropped, and then it like quickly cuts and you see the coffee mug drop, and then it cuts back to the scene that they're in talking about the coffee mug. That would be a cutaway, and that's an insert. You have a match cut, which is when 2 scenes or 2 shots line up together. They have the same
Composition.
Yeah, not composition. Yeah, composition where the subjects within the frame are in the same place. So like if you have one person who's standing like at the left side of the camera, and then in the next scene you have a dog like sitting in the left side of the camera. That way that your eye isn't like having to jump across the screen back and forth.
Yeah, you see that a lot in action movies.
Yes, because it's very easy on the eyes.
Mm-hmm. Rather than have your eyes search for every single cut, your eyes are in one spot.
Yes, and this is something I think we've talked about before. It's called eye tracing, where you know that you've seen a movie that doesn't have the best editing, or maybe they did it on purpose, but if you are tired by the time you come out of a movie, it could be because you were constantly having to jump your eyes across the screen. You'd have to be up in the top right corner, and then the bottom left corner, and then the center of the screen, and then the top left corner. Your eyes were constantly bouncing around. It wasn't nice flowing movement between all of the cuts and the shots. And they can do that for a lot of reasons. They can do that because they want to exhaust you, because they want you to feel tired, like the character feels tired or whatever. But usually in action movies, like Taylor said, they want those very smooth so that you don't get tired and it's very pleasing to the eye. Mad Max does that really well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a montage which has multiple shots put together in rapid fashion to showcase it like a passage of time. So like I think it's in Rocky where
Rocky.
like
That's like the montage.
the
of all
montage, yeah. So where like the music is playing and you see him training and he's getting better and better over time. And so you get like a year's worth of work down into like a minute. So that's a montage. You have a smash cut, which is where one scene is abruptly cuts to another scene for a narrative or emotional effect. So it's supposed to be jarring. It's supposed to catch your attention that we were here and then suddenly now we're in this place. We're in a new time and new space. And they do that for emotion's sake. They can do that for humor's sake, for a narrative's sake. It's supposed to be jarring. That's one of those cuts that you are meant to notice. Another cut that you're meant to notice is a jump cut, where you have a single continuous shot that is cut into multiple parts so that it seems like the characters are jumping forward in time, or that you know that the characters are jumping forward in time. I can't think of the movie specifically that I'm thinking of, the scene in my head, but it's like if people were all standing around like in a kitchen waiting for a phone call. You have one person like sitting at a chair, you have one person by the sink, and then suddenly it cuts and the person from the sink is now sitting in the chair and the other person is now standing by the sink. Like they suddenly switched positions. That's a jump cut, where most of the composition within the frame has stayed the same, except for maybe the subjects have moved within the frame to show that there has been a passage of time.
A good example of this, another good example of this, is if someone's cleaning a room or searching a room for something.
Yeah.
Typically, you'll see them jump cut from maybe the desk, and they're opening the desk, and then to the chest drawer, and then the desk is still open, and then they've opened the chest drawer, and then they jump to the next spot, and then opening the closet. It's just like the shot is the same, but the person that it like she said, it's filmed continuously, and then they're just cutting out bits in between it to jump from one spot to another.
Yeah, one spot within the continuous shot to another. Two things that have to do with that, I guess, like with the actual camera and the way that the camera operates. So I wanted to talk about rack focus. So your focus on a camera. So when you have a subject in frame, you can have the subject be in focus, you see them clearly, and you have their background is out of focus, is fuzzy. And so you're emphasizing the subject. Or you could have it the opposite. You could have the background clear and the subject fuzzy to tell whatever kind of story that you want to tell, whether you're trying to emphasize the background or the subject. When you rack focus is when you change between the two. In the same shot, you're changing focus between the subject and the foreground, moving focus into the background, and then the foreground becomes out of focus. And so you can do this when you're trying to change emphasis. Like if a murderer is coming up on a guy, you see the guy in the foreground in focus first, and then it racks focus to the guy behind him. So now he's in focus, and you know that he's coming up behind him is going to do something. The other thing that kind of has to do with that, I figured out the word for it, Dolly Zoom is what we were trying to figure out before. That is where you're also working with the zoom of the camera. So you're zooming in on a subject while dollying the camera out. And so by dollying, I mean it's a term for the
physical thing.
Yeah.
A dolly is like a cart that the camera operator will sit on top of with his camera, that another person in the crew can push or pull and move the dolly itself. So it's like a little cart. You sit on it, and then it'll move, which allows for stable shooting.
Yes.
While moving the camera, and you'll see that used a lot in very motion heavy scenes.
Yeah. So Dolly Zoom is what we were talking about in our previous episode, but for you guys, that's been a week. So it's when, do you want to explain it? Because I feel like you did a really good job of explaining it.
So a dolly zoom is when you zoom in or out on a subject while moving the dolly the opposite direction. So if you're zooming in on the subject, you're moving the dolly out. If you're moving towards the subject, then you're zooming out on the lens. And this creates an interesting effect where the background stretches or compresses depending on which direction you're moving and zooming in or out. And so this is used a lot in films. We said, last week they used it in Jaws, which it gives this sort of like sudden realization moment, or this moment of oh my goodness, this person's turning crazy.
Of tension, yeah.
It's this point of tension in the shot, and it is a very interesting effect that is that you can do like without VFX.
Yeah.
It is a very, very intriguing shot, very artistic shot, and it is one of the very few shots that I think is the most complicated looking.
Yeah.
Without VFX.
Yeah. So that's basically all of like the technical things that I wanted to talk about. The last couple of things would just be genres, and we've gone over a majority of the genres in our other episodes, so if you haven't listened to those, you should go check those out. I'm going to cover some of the ones that we haven't done. So like there's I guess these are genres. I first wanted to cover animated and live action. So animated movies are like you typically think of like Disney or DreamWorks or something. It's a film that has been digitally produced.
Or hand-drawn.
Hand-drawn, it's not actual people. That's live action, is when you have actual actors and people standing in front of a camera. Animated is hand-drawn or digitally produced. Then you can have did we talk about action movies? I don't think we did.
No, we haven't really talked. We talked about superhero movies.
We did talk about superhero movies. So superhero movies are like action movies. Action movies are exactly what they sound like. They have a lot of action in them. Typically with like battles, wars, things like that, where big conflicts, physical conflicts are occurring. You can also have westerns. We haven't talked about westerns.
Nope.
Okay. Westerns are usually set in like the American West, Wild West, which is cowboys and
Cowboys.
Cowboys.
It's cowboys set in sort of like the desert Nevada, like typical Texas, cattle ranch,
Yeah.
cowboys. The sheriff is not, town ain't big enough for the both of us.
This town ain't big enough for the both of
You
us.
know, all that jazz.
You have the classics, which typically refer to like the old black and white films, the early days. I think they can refer to both movies with audio and without audio, the classics.
Yes. Yeah, I would say.
And then epics, which are long historical dramas, which I don't think we'll ever talk about, but I just thought it'd be interesting to mention because there are some epics out there that are pretty interesting. So those are my genres.
Is that all we have?
That's all we have.
Okay. Wow, that was long.
That was a lot of information. You guys deserve a nap.
Yeah, maybe you took one while you were listening to us. If that's the case, please back up.
Congratulations.
Please back up and listen to it again.
Y'all should get a snack now. You should get some water.
Yeah,
recharge
drink some water. You were gonna say recharge your batteries.
Recharge your batteries.
And go listen to a fun episode.
Go listen.
If you can't, if you've listened to all of our episodes and this is the most recent one, sorry.
Next week will be better.
Yeah. We thought it would be important to define things, and so everyone from here out is on the same page when it comes to these terms and it comes to these things that we're talking about. Of course, there's always going to be more things that we're going to talk about that are going to get more complex or things that we haven't mentioned yet, and then in that case, we'll do our best to define it.
Try and explain it in the moment. Please bear with us if we don't. Just if there's something that you don't understand, just send us a question and we'll be happy to explain it the next time.
Yeah, if there's any questions that you guys have at all, send it to us. Tweet it at us at MFTII podcast, or DM us on Instagram with the same tag.
Yep, at MFTII podcast. We also have an email.
Yes, at Gmail, MFTII podcast at gmail.com.
Yep.
So obviously that's in the end of every episode. You can hear us say those exact same things. If you forget between now and the next 2 minutes.
But some people don't listen to the very end.
That's true.
Some people just stop.
That's true. They do.
So now we're forced to.
Yeah, now you had to hear the thing we said. But yeah, no, seriously, hit us up with questions. We'd love to answer them. Shoot, we'll even answer them on the podcast if we think they're interesting enough.
That's what I've always wanted to do, is have people ask questions and then get to answer them.
I know, right? And now, we can do that because people are actually listening to us. I know it's going to sound mean to the people who aren't from this place, but shout out to the fans in Arizona because, I see you guys. I know it's weird that you say, for me to say that I see, but I get some demographics, and there's either a bunch of you or 2 of you that listen to everything. Episode. So shout out to you guys because we see you. DM us, tweet at us if you're from Arizona. I will probably respond. I'll be like, "Yo, cool,
We're
Arizona."
So excited.
I went there once.
I've never been. I wanted to go. There's this mountain that I want to visit. The Brute Mountain, something like that.
I'm sure they could tell us.
Yeah.
Tweet us and we'll find out. Yeah, I think for this episode, since we don't have recommendations, let's just say something that you recommend that you've been watching or doing this week.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. Go for it.
Please, if you have Netflix, you have to watch Money Heist. Okay, so this is a TV show, television show that is not made in America. It's not produced in English. You're gonna have to listen to voiceover,
or watch with subtitles.
The actual name for it is La Casa de Papel, which is the House of Paper. And what it is it follows this group of robbers, these thieves who break into a mint, and they rob the place. And I don't want to give too much away because like the plan. So you have this one character. His name is the Professor. He is the mastermind behind the plan, and slowly his plan is revealed throughout the episode. So I don't want to give anything away. Just know that it is a heist television show. So with that, you know that there's going to be robbers, there's going to be police, there's going to be problem solving, because that's all that heist movies are. It's just a problem coming up and then them trying to problem solve. It is absolutely incredible. The detail that has gone into it, the acting that is in it is phenomenal. Please go watch it.
All right. Mine is also a television show. It's called Legion. It was released on FX a while back. It's got 3 seasons, I believe, and it is it's a superhero show about this. It's set in the X-Men universe where there's mutants, which are people that are genetically mutated to have superpowers. And it follows this character named David, who is a super duper powerful telekinetic, move things with your mind, telepathic, read people's minds and communicate through minds, who believed he was schizophrenic until he was told otherwise by other mutants who came but it turns out that he might actually be schizophrenic. Whoa. So it's super trippy. The sound design is brilliant. The acting is brilliant. It's got the guy that plays the Beast in the Beauty and the Beast remake. It does. He plays the main character.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it now because he's
It's
kind of
also
cute.
it's also got
Don't let my boyfriend hear that.
It's also got the girl that plays April in Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Aubrey Plaza.
Yes.
She plays a really important character in it as well. Beautiful
She's
actors.
amazing.
They're so she puts everything into her roles.
Yeah.
Same with the other actor whose name I knew for a while but it totally escapes me right now. Yeah, but it's brilliant. It's artistically brilliant. It is suspenseful. It is fun to watch. It is confusing as hell. But it should go down in history as possibly the best superhero show I can see. Unless the future seasons, I'm still on season 1, I'll be honest, because it's long. It's long, and I just found it. You can watch it on Hulu. I have to watch it with ads because I'm boring, but I don't mind because it's a TV show.
Yeah, I watch with ads too.
And so it's brilliant. And unless the future seasons let me down, I think it should go down in history as the best.
I'm gonna let you know now that usually with TV shows, the future seasons will let you down.
I don't know, man. I'm saying this season, even if the future seasons let me down, this first season alone is enough for me to be like, yeah, I think this is possibly the best superhero TV show in existence. Well, that's it. Thanks for joining us on this really, really long intellectual journey for today.
Yeah.
But we hope you guys will come back for, more goofs and gaffs next week. I'm sure that we'll have a great topic picked out.
I tried really hard for my goofs and gaffs for this episode, and I don't see any appreciation.
See y'all next week.
Bye.
Media for the Intellectually Impoverished is produced by Trey Taylor Smith and Miranda Randy Zapes.
Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at MFTII Podcast, or email us at mftiipodcast@gmail.com.
That's MFT, 2 Eyes, Podcast. Thanks for listening.